Hmm. Good morning and welcome to Conversations with Annassa. So happy to see you all this morning. Really, really wonderful to be here. Such an honor to be in your presence. So, we'll use the mantra today. I am in perfect union because we want to be in alignment with the divine that we are, which is our highest best and the highest best of the whole. And when we're in union, in alignment, then everything that we do is for our own benefit and the benefit of everyone we share the planet with. So that's a good place for us to start. And we'll work with the different energy centers from the bottom up. So we'll start at the tip of the tailbone. You feel into that energy center and allow the energy to begin to accumulate there in a pool. As you breathe to that place and just feel and feel and feel into the space between the breaths at the tip of your tailbone. And say into that space, I am in perfect alignment. And just feel. As that energy gathers, it will naturally begin to rise up. And move to the energy center just below your belly button. Breathe into that space and feel as you say, I am in perfect alignment. As you hold your attention there in that space, the energy will naturally accumulate. And then gently rise up to your heart center in the middle of your chest. Breathe into that heart center. I am in perfect alignment. As the energy accumulates in your heart center, it will naturally begin to rise up into your throat center. Feel into that center. Breathe into your throat. I am in perfect alignment. As the energy accumulates in your throat center, it will automatically gently rise to your third eye behind and between your eyebrows. Take your attention there. Energy follows attention. Breathe into that energy center. I am in perfect alignment. And just feel as you repeat those words. As the energy accumulates in your third eye, it will naturally rise up to your crown center. Feel into that space at the top of your head. There is a huge flower there. Say into that space, I am in perfect alignment. You may begin to feel the energy spouting out the top of your head like a fountain. This will take you to the next energy center, which is at the top of your aura. If you were to hold your hands in a circle around your head, that's the spot. The top of your halo. And you may feel your energetic body coming alive. This part of your bioenergetic field can look like an apple from the outside. The energy is flowing up in 360 degrees, expressing itself in 360 degrees around you as it comes out the top of your head. Comes down and again begins at the base of the spine, coming up your central channel, out the top of your head, and around. Synchronize your breath with the movement of this energy. As you're ready, gently bring your attention back to this space. And we'll begin to take questions. We'll start this morning with a question we got via email over the last week. And the question was this. Well, the question was, why do you leave out the root chakra? And the way we'll answer that is that the tip of the tailbone is the root chakra. And so if there's anything we're leaving out the specific identity and location of the sex chakra, which is just above the root chakra. And the reason we do that at this point is because it doesn't feel necessary to make that separation in this moment. It's more important to have less energy centers that we pay attention to and actually get the flow going than, having 9 or 10 energy centers and ending up not getting higher than your belly button. So we want to get the whole thing moving. And then which is which and how they work will begin to show itself to you. And so as we all move along in that direction, then there will be more questions like this and we'll answer them more specifically. But for now, what we really want is everybody to get this flow going, to begin to feel yourself as an energetic body. Because the energetic body is as important to us as our physical body, and it's our access to ourselves as light beings. And so we're much more interested in having you have the whole experience of an energetic body than one particular energy center being alive. So we want this whole thing to come to life so you can begin to live from it and understand it. And as you have more and more access to it, it becomes more and more a part of your life and a part of your identity as a human being. And so far, much of what we've been trained to do in our lives is not to be human beings, but human doings. And so as we take our attention inside, we begin to understand ourselves as human beings, and that the power that we can generate energetically that begins to express itself through us influences our human doing in a very good way. Or we'll say in very good ways, in ways that benefit the entire whole. And so the more attention we spend in human being, the more our human doing becomes informed in terms of higher purpose. So this is our intention in meeting with you and in beginning with meditation practice. And we want to tell you that we did our first meditation practice together on Wednesday night, last Wednesday, and it was really quite successful as far as we're concerned, because it's about energetic transmission. And so it's an opportunity to have a guided meditation similar to what we did this morning, but then to really just work in that field on our own as the energy is being transmitted from Annassa through Rebecca to you to benefit your own energetic contact. And so we can spend an hour doing that and really generate some flow within you. And so this is our purpose in communicating with you, and a way of extending, in two ways, we're extending your access to this energetic information, and it is information. And so the more your capacity in receiving and becoming the living example of your own energy blossoming through this contact, we're just giving you an energetic boost so that you can get going faster. And then you can bring your questions here. And the other thing that's happening is we're beginning to form a spiritual community where we can actually come together and reflect and communicate together. And we will serve as well as we can. And we love that things are growing, that more people are coming, and that this is expanding. So we're completely grateful and honored to be with you in this event as it reveals itself. So we welcome questions. How may we serve this morning? Yes. I'm still confused. Is there a sex chakra, a root chakra, and um, I'm going to read it again. I'm still confused. Is there a sex chakra, a root chakra, a tailbone chakra? Well, different traditions talk about it differently. Root chakra, sacral chakra. And when they use the two of those, they're really, that's code for root chakra is the tip of the tailbone, and sex chakra they call the sacral chakra, and that's really the junction of the top of the sacrum and the bottom of the lumbar spine. And that can be the sex chakra. Because we are female, the root of the sex chakra is in a different place than the male. It's not exactly the same, it's bigger because our entire sexual apparatus is bigger. And so, in order to avoid discussing that complication, we just focus on what we would call the tip of the tailbone, which is the bottom of the triangular shaped bone. The tip of the coccyx is really anatomically where we would make that location. And because, how do we say this? In the male and female, because these locations are slightly different, we just avoid the whole question and try to expand energetic awareness throughout the pelvis. And if you do that and allow the energy to pool, it will naturally rise up to the energy center below the belly button. And this is a power center. All of these energetic centers are power centers. And when you understand that every pore in the skin of a human body is an energy center, then where and how you identify these major junction points becomes less and less important. But it's important that you really cultivate the flow in your central channel from the bottom, which is really the intersection with the earth. to the top, which is the intersection with heaven. Although we hesitate to use heaven and earth as it is a polarity, but it's not a polarity of good and evil, as we may have been trained if we were brought up Christian. It's not a polarity of good and evil, and we see this kind of polarity in regarding that which is below as evil and that which is above as heaven as a big culprit in why we have such problems in honoring Mother Earth herself and making her a priority in terms of our own survival. And as we have taken the feminine for granted, with all the abundance that naturally comes, so have we abused the feminine, and the earth is feminine. And so as we take our attention into the earth and reclaim the feminine, our survival will be guaranteed. As we ignore that mission in ourselves, our survival will be in jeopardy. So we have a choice always. And we see these issues as being interlinked with the idea that hell is beneath us and heaven is above us. So this is why we question language a little bit, but at the same time, as our energy flows through each of these energy centers, it does become more refined, and our awareness becomes more refined. So this is the truth. And as with most truth, there is paradox in it. And that's okay, because equanimity is sitting in the center of that paradox and allowing it to be. And so this is an important thing to cultivate, because in our own particular culture at this moment, the climate of polar disparity in identity and identification with priorities as a culture, the polarities are further and further apart. And so it's important that we learn to center ourselves in these polarities, in between these polarities, and we understand that both sides have some truth and both sides have some falsehood, and that getting involved in the fight is the way to diminish any capacity that we have to influence the whole. That it's more important that we take our energy deeply inside, allow the paradox to exist without investing in the battle. Because from that perspective, from that witness perspective, when we do participate, first of all, energetically, by bringing ourselves higher and higher, by doing Ho'oponopono into any disharmony that presents itself within ourselves, we are actually doing the greatest service we can in connecting and participating in the whole. And then what to do comes from our beingness. Our beingness informs our doing, and our doing is in the service to the whole. So the more refined we become inside ourselves, the more what we do in the world has power and benefit. So we are not reacting from unresolved emotions. We are instead acting from the deepest connection with our divine selves that we can possibly express. How may we serve further?
Good morning, Rebecca.
Good morning, Drew. How are you?
Real good, thanks.
So good
So
to see you.
good to see you as well. And so the question came up in my mind about um, kind of the duality of letting all that does not serve me go, and yet also holding um, all things and putting love into holding all things in love.
So, here's what we would say. We would change the language a little bit because the way love expresses itself and what's often left out in our culture, and we're not saying this to you personally, but what's often left out is the love for ourselves. We often leave ourselves out of that equation. So all our love is going out there.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, certain parts of ourselves are starving. And we're not saying this to you personally, Drew. We're
Under-
saying this in general, that we all tend to do this because we see our lives as seva, as an expression of our highest capacity to serve. And so when we see our lives as that, then we want to be in service. And so we are constantly putting out love. But if we leave ourselves out of that equation, then the quality of the love suffers because we are not expressing that love from that which is beyond love, peace, joy, and gratitude. So when we center ourselves, and one of the easiest ways to do this is to center ourselves with gratitude. Just think of 3 things you're grateful for in this moment. Think of 3 things and feel your energy change as you do that. We're going to do it too. So, what happened to us as we did that is we got a cascade of all the wonderful people in our life. And our energy changed. The way it was expressing just went like this. And so, if you noticed your energy change for the better, then that means that even after our meditation, we weren't connected to that field which is beyond in the highest way we could be in this moment. So that information says maybe we should start our meditation with 3 things we're grateful for. And then we'll start from there. And in that gratitude, we can begin to feel the love for ourselves, the blessing it is to have a human life, the gift of presence, the gift of being able to feel into ourselves as energetic beings, to have that space in our lives to concentrate on being instead of being forced into just doing, which major parts of the population have no choice. We are so lucky to be here experiencing the field of being and being able to expand our awareness of that being and then bring that to our doing. So, what we would say is that the highest thing is to love ourselves. And from that experience of love and gratitude for our beingness, joy begins to arise. And that joy is the indication of real contact. So our lives are not about drudgery. Our lives are about expressing joy. And this is our birthright. It's not just there for those few people who get to grab it in this lifestyle. In this lifetime. It's there for everyone. It is our birthright if we reach for it. And we reach for it inside ourselves. We have been taught to expect that the only field of awareness in which we can experience joy is an accomplishment outside ourselves and recognition for that accomplishment by others. This is false matrix of belief. The truth is that joy exists within each one of us, regardless of what our life expression is. That joy is there and available to all of us as we cultivate our inner selves. And a large part of that goal is allowing ourselves to receive love from ourselves. We hold the love that we have been waiting for from the outside. That love exists within us. And as we cultivate our inner experience, that love emerges. And from that love, we begin to really trust our inner. And really, the purpose of inner work is to learn to trust our own love for ourselves so that our beingness becomes a place of clarity and our expression in doing becomes the expression of that clarity and how to participate most effectively in the whole. We hope that answers your question, Drew. We're not sure that we stayed on topic. How may we serve further? Drew. How may we serve further?
It's going back to the energy centers.
Mm-hmm.
I find my energy falters sometimes around my solar plexus. Can you speak to this?
Oh, yes. We've had this experience a lot. The solar plexus is where, well, probably everybody here at some point has had the wind knocked out of them. That's our solar plexus. That's how we know where it is. So, what happens is that center is right where our physical diaphragm is. The physical diaphragm is what informs our breath about how big it can go. And very often, and this comes from Rebecca's experience as an osteopath, very often people's diaphragms are stuck in that they can't experience a really, really deep breath because there has been some shock or trauma that has come into the system. And when a shock or trauma comes in like this, we go, and our energy goes up like this, and our diaphragm goes up and it gets stuck here. You can see looking at me as I hold my diaphragm up what that looks like. Well, if that doesn't come down with a deep breath, then that relaxation can't happen. So that trauma has to be released, that drama or trauma that caused us to have this. It really is a big exhale in response to a shock coming in. that until that trauma is released, then the solar plexus is kind of stuck. But one way we can release that in ourselves is by consciously relaxing our diaphragm and understand that the breath itself requires no effort, that there is a vacuum created when the diaphragm falls that pulls in the air. We don't have to do that to breathe. If you've ever noticed, our breath just happens, and it happens because our diaphragm creates a vacuum that pulls in the air. And the active part of the breath is the exhale, which is also quite natural. There is a physiological mechanism that makes it happen if our body somehow loses the thread of the breath. The physiology takes over and makes it happen in both directions. So it's built into our autonomic nervous system, which you could think of as the automatic nervous system. So the way we can release our diaphragm is to consciously relax just below our rib cage, or at the bottom of our rib cage is how we'll say it. Consciously relax as you inhale. And you will feel that diaphragm drop. And this is the issue. It's unreleased trauma or drama or anxiety that causes the diaphragm to have a less range of motion, is how we'll say it. And the solution to it is conscious breathing, conscious relaxation on the in-breath, until you can feel the in-breath all the way down to your toes. That's flow. And of course, we know that physiologically you cannot take your diaphragm to your toes, but you can feel the energy expand and go out the bottoms of your feet. We hope that answers your question. How may we serve further? So this brings up what is called pranayama practices, which are breathing practices to actually expand this relaxation and awareness. And so there is a pranayama, a breathing practice you can do to begin to regulate your breath. And a very simple way to do it is you can count slowly to 4 on your in-breath and slowly to 4 on your out-breath. And begin feeling what that feels like to even your inhale and exhale. We can do it a little bit together right now. So you inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Keep going at your own pace. And an interesting thing happens as you begin to control your own breath. Sometimes it might just stop. And then the breath starts breathing you. And that is the breath of the divine. We hope that answers your question. How may we serve further? Yes.
I think the question or topic is to speak to these times and the potence and how potent they are astrologically. And is there any wisdom to be shared on this subject?
Well, because we're not really proficient at astrology, we're going to give a pretty general answer to the astrology. And that is that it's difficult. You know, there are a whole bunch of planets in one house, so they all merge into spaghetti on a plate energetically. And so it's difficult for the entire of humanity. We'll just say that. And again, there is so much polarity in the environment at this moment that if we concentrate on centering ourselves and staying in the center without reacting to anything that's happening around us, understanding that there is a lot of chaos and the impact that chaos can have on us if we allow it is to take our attention and pull us into whichever polarity we feel drawn to identify with. And then from that polarity, we become part of the problem because we are adding our energetic weight to that end of the polarity. And the goal in this time is to stay in the center in ourselves so we are not in reaction and we can be a source of nourishment beginning with ourselves and to everyone that we interact with in our daily lives. And if we can hold to that center and to the love, peace, joy, and gratitude that we wish for ourselves and for everyone else on the planet, every other being on the planet, if we hold to that, then we have no reason to disagree with anybody. We can always find some common ground somewhere so that we're not destroying relationships, but creating flow in every interaction we have. And from that flow, there is possibility of understanding and coming to common ground. But if that flow is destroyed, then the relationship is destroyed and there is more polarity, more, not diversity. Diversity is a blessing. It's the dividedness when we take an opinion and hold to it and hold to our to our feeling that we have the only right answer. And if you disagree with us, then there's something wrong with you. So we hold to our love for ourselves and for life itself and our gratitude for the capacity to participate. And we cultivate a participation in an ever deepening way in our own being, so that our doing creates union rather than division. We hope we answered that question. Did we stay anywhere near on topic? Please ask us again if we missed it.
It was about astrology.
How may we serve further? So we'll say this about astrology generally, and that astrology is really helpful because it's as close as we can get to glimpsing our own blueprint of what we took on in this lifetime. So personally, astrology can be very relevant at certain stages of our inner growth, because it's another way of saying, our blueprint is how we chose to address our karma in this life. And so if we want to get as close as we can to a picture of what our karma is, looking at our blueprint astrologically with a really competent astrologer is one of the best ways we can get a glimpse of that. So we'll say that about astrology. We can say that with confidence. How may we serve further? Well, we're quite happy to sit here and just transmit, whether we use words or not. So we welcome your questions, and we're happy to transmit as well. And that's happening whether we're talking or not. So we're just bringing your attention to it as a way of plugging our new Wednesday night program too, because we really want you to come and experience that energy for an hour without the words. But we have no objection to the words too. We love these conversations. We're very, very, very happy to be here. We'll use any method we can to transmit to you. And we applaud your willingness to receive. How may we serve further? There was a question about the Wednesday night program, about open eyes, gazing, and how the energy is transmitted through gazing. And it's said in some religious texts that you can see into the soul of a person through the eyes. And one of the most comfortable ways for us to transmit through Rebecca is through the eyes, in this gazing. Because we can transmit infinity through the eyes, through a clear channel. And so this is our purpose in the open eye transmission. Yes.
So this question was asked earlier, and the author felt it had been answered. However, someone else asked if we could please state it. So if we don't feel each energy center or feel our energetic body, is it okay to imagine them and use visualization at first? Is it possible we may never feel our energetic body?
So, the reason that we speak in the way that we do when we do guided meditation is that we are giving you a visualization of the reality that already exists within you. And so, the reason that it can't be felt immediately is because we have not cultivated our awareness, or there are emotional layers of unresolved disharmony that have yet to be brought into harmony that are blocking us from that experience. So, this is why we recommend that everyone become a master of Ho'oponopono with every disharmony that you might discover within yourselves. Because these layers of disharmony we could regard as layers of unresolved karma, is another way we could talk about it. These are blockages that exist within our energetic system simply because we haven't given the depth of attention to our inner being to bring these into harmony. And as this harmony happens within us, then it's the same as when we resolve and bring into harmony something outside of us, the flow is free. And so, as we take our attention into these places of disharmony that will naturally arise, these awarenesses will naturally arise as we meditate and begin concentrating on these energy centers. Whatever is blocking them will come into our awareness to be resolved into harmony so that we can increase our flow. So, we are both giving you a vision of what exists in our perception today in humanity. We're giving you a vision of that so that you can visualize that as the truth of your being as you begin to release your own energetic flow into that experience so that it becomes the experience of your being, that you have an energetic body that is in constant flow. And as you cultivate that, your awareness of that becomes more and more. And it's not so much that you notice it change on a daily basis. It's that if you look at how you felt inside yourself 6 months ago and how you feel inside yourself in this moment, we would bet that anybody who's been sitting with us regularly is having a very different experience of themselves than they did 6 months ago. And so we invite you to view it over that kind of perspective of time, that you not view it on a moment to moment basis. Oh, I still can't feel anything. I still can't feel anything. Therefore, it doesn't work. You know, that is a good way of circling down the drain. And that's not the truth. The truth is that every time you take your attention inside yourself with the intention of connecting to your being and your union with your own divinity and the divinity of the whole, every time you do that, there is benefit. And so this is why we recommend doing it twice a day. Sometime what we do for ourselves is if we're going out and about in a day, we do it sometime before we leave the house, and we do it sometime before we sleep. You just spend, 10 or 15 minutes is enough. And if it's not enough, then you can take more time if you have it. But you acknowledge your commitment to experiencing your own divinity by spending some time every morning and every evening connecting to the divine within you. And for us, the best way to do that is to feel into each of these centers. And you can use this meditation that we gave this morning as your own. It will be up on the internet within a few days. And it's a very good way to just take a few minutes and build your own awareness of your inner mechanism. And if you do that every day, twice a day, it is guaranteed that your experience of yourself will change over time. And that formula is the more intensity that you bring to that practice every single time you do it, the quicker it will begin to give you deeper and deeper access. But most of us, and Rebecca at the beginning was no exception, most of us have lifetimes of accumulated trauma that we could call karma that needs to be dissolved in the process of accessing our own flow. And so understand that every time you sit down and do this work, you are benefiting, whether or not you can feel what we're talking about in any given moment. And that awareness of feeling will come over time, and there's nothing wrong with you if you can't feel it in this moment. There is nothing wrong, there is just more work to be done. And this is why we call it inner work, because as you know from doing it yourself, it takes work to take your attention inside. And discipline to hold your attention in each one of these energy centers and feel and feel and feel. And the only thing that you can do wrong is to judge yourself and reject yourself because you're not feeling what you think you should be feeling in this moment. That's the only thing you can do wrong. And we say that's wrong because it creates more density rather than less. So this is the only arena where we would ask you to have faith that this process is actually occurring. Because everyone starts out not being able to feel, and sometimes that lasts a very long time. But understand that every time you take your attention inside, there is some benefit, and you are turning the current of a river that was headed in one direction into a different direction, and it just takes time to move the path of a river or shovel by shovel bring down a mountain. Both of these images are appropriate to what happens with inner work. How may we serve further? We love your questions. We are so grateful to be here with you. So, what appears when you do inner work is that experiences arise that challenge your matrix of belief. We were all given a matrix of belief as we were indoctrinated into how to behave as social beings by our parents, our peers, and other elders. And so we took on this matrix of belief without at an age where we had no capacity for judgment or discrimination. And so it was handed to us in all kinds of ways, mostly in unspoken emotional ways. Because when we come into being, we are just an open field of awareness. And so we take on everything in our environment as truth because it is our experience. And if you watch tiny human beings, or you've had children, or you can remember your own childhood, we come in without any discrimination skills. Discrimination is not something we come in with. And so we take in everything as truth. And it's not until we have the powers of discrimination, which happens very late in life, we don't really mature as human beings until the age of 26. It takes that long before our discrimination begins to have any real clarity to it. That is when our brain is fully formed. And so we have accumulated a lot of experience in that time that we've not really had the capacity to clearly discriminate about. So a lot of spiritual work is about examining our matrix of belief to discover what about it is true and what about it is false. And so one of the biggest things we would challenge is the idea that all love should be expressed outside. Because until we love ourselves, we don't really know what love is because we haven't experienced it. And most of us, not everyone, but most of us had parents that were also not particularly skilled at loving themselves. And because they were not skilled at loving themselves, they didn't know how to teach us to learn with love. For example, if milk was spilled in your house, were you shamed? Or were you told, oh, this is just spilled milk. All we do is clean it up? Just a simple experience like that. Was some emotional baggage handed to you? Or was it just simple? And there was no blame or shame or any of those anger, negativity. Just a simple experience like that. And so you can look at your own life experience and actually resolve the blame, shame, judgment, guilt, that pain of not being loved in the way human beings haven't really learned to treat themselves or each other yet. It's possible for us to treat ourselves that way and then begin to treat every other in that way. So examining the matrix of belief is a really, really important part of our spiritual growth. And this is part of why we make ourselves available for question and answer, because we encourage the examination of that matrix of belief and the allowing of these unresolved emotional experiences of rejection is really what we're talking about. Self-rejection and rejection by those who trained us how to be good humans. We can resolve that into love and become ever finer and finer expressions of the human beings that we are. And then our human doings begin to change for the better. How may we serve further?
As an extension of that, there was a comment, it's hard to love myself when I see so many faults.
See so many
Faults.
faults. Oh, so you love the faults. You just take them one by one. You sit with them and you say, okay, which is the worst one? You pick the worst one and you bring it. You bring it to your heart and you say, okay, I'm an angry person. You just admit it. I have anger toward this person and that person and myself. Self-hatred is like the most common thing we run into. So you take that self-hatred and you invite it. You invite it and you allow it to be present. You just sit with it. And the first step is recognizing it. So you take the biggest, baddest thing inside yourself and you bring it home. You invite it forward. And you ask it to show itself to you. And it may assume some form in front of you. Like one of the first things we ever envisioned in ourselves was a big black lump of coal. And we just let it be. And what happened? Archangel Michael came. We handed it to Archangel Michael, who put a purple light on it, and it turned into pure white light. This kind of experience happens when you engage your deepest, darkest, and invite the help of Annassa, of the universe, of your guides and angels. When you engage deeply within yourself, with every resource, you invite every resource that might be available to help you in this journey inward. You invite your darkness in whatever way you can grab a hold of a thread of it and bring it to your awareness. Because we have spent our lives burying our darkness as deeply as we can. I can't think about that. I can't think about that. That's too painful. I don't want to go there. Why would I want to know that? These are what we say to ourselves over and over as we go through our life. And then finally, we realize it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. We're just getting more and more dense every single day. And so we sit down on our cushion and we say, okay, there's got to be a better way. And we pull on the thread of darkness. We ask it to tell us about ourselves. And then we love it into harmony. With Ho'oponopono, we speak to our highest self through our darkness. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And these words contain the feelings that can bring every darkness that we have ever experienced within ourselves into the harmony of love, peace, joy, gratitude, and access to that which is beyond. This is our entire practice. Everything we've said today encompasses every experience that you will run into in this journey. And so the real thing is just to be honest with yourself. I am feeling this in this moment. And you bring that feeling into love, peace, joy, and gratitude, no matter how long it takes. It may not happen in the first 10 minutes. It may not happen in the first 10 days. Give yourself time, love, and permission to be as you are, because there is nothing wrong. There is nothing wrong with who you are. Everything exists within you to bring you into harmony with your own divinity. It just requires attention, patience, endurance, and commitment. And we'll say discipline. Discipline and commitment are the same. But as you focus your attention inside and over bring yourself into harmony, as you over and over say, what are 3 things I'm grateful for in this moment? And allow yourself to feel that gratitude coursing through your veins. And the experience of your inner beingness and yourself as a sacred field of awareness. Then your hunger for this deep union will grow more and more and support your endeavor to become your highest self in union with the highest, available to all of us. We are so grateful to be with you. Let's move into our meditation at this point. So we're going to just very briefly guide you into meditation, and this will be mostly energetic transmission as we keep our eyes open and our presence available to you. So take your attention inside and at your own pace, breathe into each one of these energy centers while saying, I am in perfect union, or I am in perfect alignment, whichever feels the truth to you. And feel and feel and feel inside as you allow yourselves to take in the energy that has become available. Thank you so much for being with us this morning. We have totally enjoyed every second with you. We are so honored to be with you and so joyful to share in this presence. So much love to you all. Thank you for coming. We bow to your work.